Welcome back everyone to another Weather at a Glance video. In today's forecast, we're going over our winter weather outlook for this week. We do see a lot of winter weather happening this week, and we are expecting some snowy conditions, some winter systems to move through, as well as some ice accumulation and overall wet conditions throughout much of the United States. All coming up in just a bit. All right, now on our first slide here, we're taking a look at our surface temperature. For this, we're going to be using the European forecast model. This is going to be good for determining our temperature, and I do trust this a lot. So here we're going to start looking off at the beginning of the week, Monday. We're seeing some cooler conditions starting off in the East Coast, but we do see things warming up as we move through the second half of the week. So a lot of the areas you can see we cooled off there, but throughout the latter half of the week, we do see this big warm up and this big ridging out in the eastern half of the United States. That is going to bring you warm weather. So the jet stream is pushing northward. We do see ridging in the south. So we're going to see that jet stream create that ridge over much of the southeastern United States and much of the eastern half of the United States. And all of these areas are going to be in those warmer conditions throughout this week and heading into next week. Now, on the contrary, we see for the other half of the United States over here in the western portions, we do see troughing, and that's going to bring those cooler conditions. So again, things are going to switch throughout this week. We are seeing some milder conditions this morning and into the afternoon throughout today on Monday. But then we do see, as we push into the latter half of the week, we do see these cooler conditions surging down into the western half of the United States. And that is going to be keeping things much cooler as we head into the latter half of the week. So again, to summarize this up, basically warmer conditions out in the eastern United States and cooler conditions in the west. Now, as far as your temperatures go, basically you're going to be seeing anywhere from 60s to 70s over here in the eastern half of the United States. Some pockets of 80 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures along the Gulf Coast, but that's only going to be an occasional factor here that we do see along the coastline. Now, as we move to the north here, basically 60s and 70s are going to be your highs for those days and lows in the 40s and 50s. But other than that, basically really nice conditions for this week. So make sure you are enjoying that because that will eventually go away here. As for those up here for the northern United States, the Northwest specifically, we are looking at temperatures in the 20s, definitely cooler conditions, very cold and very chilly. And then we do see up here in the mountainous regions in the northern Rockies, we could see some of those closer to negative or 0 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures. So basically anywhere around 8 degrees Fahrenheit, we do see some pockets of heading into the negatives there, anywhere from 0 to negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That's going to be more for the upper elevations in those mountains. But we do see some of the Great Plains over here in Montana seeing those cooler conditions down closer to 0 degrees Fahrenheit as well. So definitely cooler conditions up in Montana as we move throughout the latter half of the week. All right, now moving on to our next slide, we're looking at our surface winds, and this is with the European forecast model as well. We are looking at some potentially stronger winds with our system that moves through this week, which we'll be going over on the next couple of slides. But for right now, you can see kind of the low pressure system developing over Wyoming and Colorado. We do see that's kind of a weaker low pressure system, 999 millibar low pressure system heading around 1000. But we do see that develop off the eastern half of the Rockies there. And this is going to push northeast with quite some impacts. We do see some wintry conditions that we will talk about on the next couple of slides. But here you can see with the wind, we do see those tight isobars along the mountainous regions, and that is going to push eastward. This could potentially bring some potential blizzard conditions with this if we have the right conditions of snow and the wind. So we could see some stronger winds here with those tighter isobars. That's indicating stronger winds there. And we could see anywhere from about 30 to 35 knots, depending on where we are along the mountains here. So definitely going to be stronger winds over in Wyoming and Colorado and heading off into the northern plains there. But we do see some stronger wind gusts here. Basically anywhere within here, we are going to see some very stronger winds with that. Nothing too extreme, but around 30 to 35 knots, which could indicate some blizzard conditions with the system that moves through. Now, we're going to be looking at the wind chill with the European forecast model here. And as you can see, when we talk about wind and cooler conditions, we have to take wind chill into a factor. Again, people are going to be going to school and work in the morning. It's going to be cold, and you want to know how to dress. So definitely, you're going to want to bundle up this week as we move into the latter half of the week. And with those wind chills, definitely going to be some cooler wind chills here. We see anywhere temperatures feeling from the teens down into the near 0 degrees Fahrenheit there, and even down in the negatives at times, anywhere from Montana, North Dakota, and down into Colorado there. and Wyoming. We do see those cooler conditions primarily staying up here in the northern Great Plains, but we do see some cooler conditions down in Colorado as well. Definitely going to be a cooler impact for much of these areas in the west and northern plains. So a lot of these areas are going to be experiencing those cooler conditions as we move throughout the week, and you're definitely going to want to start bundling up and thinking about winter clothing as we move through the week. Now out here for the eastern half of the United States, you won't have to worry about any of those wind chills quite yet. Again, nice comfortable temperatures in the eastern half of the United States. We could see some of those cooler conditions dipping down to northern Arizona, but nothing impactful where you're going to need winter clothing quite yet. But definitely out here for the Northwest, you're definitely going to want to bundle up as we see some of those 0 to 10 degree Fahrenheit conditions and even some areas surging down to the negatives. That will definitely be an impact as we move into the week. All right, now moving on to the storm systems that we were talking about, we're going to start off with the GFS because I want to provide you with two different forecast models and their opinions on how this storm is going to move eastward. So here we're starting off with the GFS. We can see this low pressure system develop off of the Rockies here, a 1,000 millibar low pressure system, kind of keeping itself more mild, but then we do see this push eastward throughout the week. So we could see this move up into Wisconsin, again, with milder impacts off to the east, but then you see we definitely do have snowy conditions moving here for much of the northern half of the United States. So it's going to develop off the Rockies here, going to bring some snowy impacts there, potential blizzard impacts as we talked about if the wind persists. We see those tight isobars there along the mountains. Definitely something to watch out for as we move into the week. That's definitely going to be an area where we might have some more significant winter impacts depending on if those winds do pick up. But then we see these systems move east. We have two different systems, one at the beginning of the week and one at the latter half of the week there as we move towards Friday. But we do see both of these are going to move eastward up into the northern Great Lakes and the northern half of the Great Plains. So definitely winter conditions for much of the northwest United States. Anywhere within here, you're going to want to be paying attention for potential winter impacts as we move throughout the week. Now, with the European forecast model, we see a similar story here. We see those two systems develop here. Again, the one in Montana earlier on in the week, kind of keeping itself a weaker low pressure system, but we do see those tight isobars bringing those windy conditions that we do have to watch out for. And then we see that second system develop off the Rockies too. And then both of those are going to be pushing northeastward towards Wisconsin, but Wisconsin with the European seems to lack on the snowfall. So GFS is suggesting snowfall, European is saying no snowfall for Wisconsin. So it's going to be kind of a 50-50 chance for you guys up there in Wisconsin as of right now, but we do see snowy impacts anywhere from North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota, and definitely for Montana as we see here with that system moving through. Now with this precipitation, we are going to see the potential for flooding down in Texas. We are expecting from the National Digital Forecast database from the National Weather Service, we do see anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of precipitation. This is accumulated precipitation down here in central and west Texas here. We do see some pockets there, and then anywhere from Texas all the way up into Kansas, we do see these areas of 1 to about 2 inches of precipitation. So there's going to be a lot of areas with heavy precipitation and large accumulations. And a lot of these areas are drought-ridden areas. So we do see a lot of these areas have very dry soil, and that's not good when we have large sums of accumulation of precipitation in very short amounts of time. So that could lead to some flooding conditions as we move throughout the week, and this is over the next few days. So this is your outlook until Wednesday. So you can see we are expecting conditions of anywhere from 1 to 4 inches anywhere within these regions here. And you're really going to have to pay attention, especially down in Texas here, where we can see 2 to 4 inches of precipitation. That's going to be your area to watch for flooding. Definitely keep an eye out for that this week. Now, with the snowfall, we want to see what totals you can be expecting. This is your week at a glance for the snowfall totals. So this is definitely going to be more of a northwestern type of thing. We don't really see the Great Lakes or any areas out in the east involved, but we do see much of the west is expecting those 1 to 6 inch totals just generally across the mountainous regions. And then we do see that kind of remaining northward. We see some pockets in northern Minnesota of 1 to 4 inches. So those areas up here could see 1 to 4 inches, especially north of Minneapolis. But then we do see up here in Montana, we see large accumulations. Some of these areas, anywhere in the pink to red, you could see 6 to 12 inches. And then over here in the northern areas of the Rockies, up in northwestern Wyoming, we could see anywhere from 20 to 24 inches. So those are more mountainous regions, but definitely out here in the northern Great Plains, anywhere eastern Montana into northern North Dakota, we could see some of those 12 to 20 inch accumulations with the GFS, and that's definitely going to be some heavier snowfall for you guys up there as we move throughout the week. Now, with our European, the European is suggesting the same thing, although we are seeing less snowfall impacts indicated over here for Minnesota. So no snowfall is expected. We do see some light dustings over there for Minnesota, but the European keeps things more westward, where we do see those large accumulations still remaining over Montana and North Dakota, still similar locations expecting 12 to 16 to even 20-inch accumulations there, indicated by those reds and pinks. But then we do see the similar locations over here for northwestern Wyoming, where we do see those up to 24 inches of snowfall. But the European does keep this westward, so we will have to keep an eye out for that if Minnesota will be included in those snowfall totals as well. If you are, you likely won't see too much snowfall, maybe a dusting to a few inches, but nothing too significant for you guys out there. So altogether, what are our impacts and where can they be expected? Well, going over the first one, we see those frigid wind chills, and that can be anywhere that we covered up in the northwest United States with that cold front moving through. We see that trough bringing those colder conditions down, and that's going to be a big impact for y'all up there. There's going to be definitely windy conditions with those tighter isobars that we mentioned earlier, and with those colder conditions, definitely going to be frigid wind chills as we move throughout the week. The wintry mix is going to be more for the areas in Oklahoma. Not too much of an ice accumulation per se, but we will see wintry mix for anywhere along that boundary of precipitation where we see the pinks, and that's going to be more for the central Great Plains and up into the Great Lakes as we move throughout the week. Your snowfall is going to be for the western portions there, as we talked about, again, up in Montana especially. Both of those areas, Montana and North Dakota, those are going to be your big time snowfall because a lot of people do live in the northern Great Plains there, in some of the cities up there near Billings, but primarily your northwestern areas are going to be big for snowfall throughout the coming week. Your blizzard conditions are going to be for your western portions there. Off of the Rockies, we are expecting those tighter isobars right as that low pressure system drops over off the Rocky Mountains and eastward. We are expecting potential blizzard conditions up in Wyoming and Montana, so keep an eye out for that as we move throughout the week. And finally, our flooding definitely down in Texas and some portions of the central Great Plains, such as Kansas and Oklahoma, but down in Texas, definitely keep an eye out as we move throughout the next 3 days because we're going to see a lot of precipitation, up to 4 inches in total, and we could see that leading to flooding due to the saturated soil. I want to thank you all so much for watching today's video. A big thanks to our channel members. David, Hunter, you help keep the channel going. Thank you for being a channel member. A big thanks to today's sources, Pivotal Weather, where all those forecast models that you saw in today's video came from. I would ask that you consider subscribing for more use forecasts free of charge, and I would ask you consider following the Weather at a Glance official Facebook page for more inside information and complimentary personal forecasts when you message me on my Facebook page. Again, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.